everyone, welcome back. It's good to see you. Well, I can't see you, but you can see me. Hopefully that's a good thing. Today I want to talk about my 2020 Christmas fragrance lineup. And what I mean by this is some of these are favorite fragrances of mine that I like to wear around Christmas time, and others are new ones that I am wanting to wear more because I've become quite enamored with them, perhaps through sampling or whatever. So the first one I like to wear around this time of year, this is one that I'm fairly familiar with, as you'll see, is 5 o'clock Au Gingembre by Serge Lutens. I really love this fragrance. The reason I love wearing it at this time of year is because of that ginger in there. It's also got a tea note in it. So it's quite zesty and uplifting, but there's also some darker spices in here as well. I think it's got cacao and cinnamon and I don't know what else, but the spices in here are really quite prominent and it gives it a really Christmassy vibe. So that's why I like wearing it. It works in daytime or nighttime, in the hot or cooler weather, and it just feels like Christmas to me. So this is one of my absolute favorite fragrances to wear at Christmas time, and obviously it's one of my favorite houses as well, so no surprises there. The next one is also a ginger, or has a very prominent ginger note, and that is Twilly by Hermes. Who doesn't love this bottle? This bottle is so adorable, honestly, especially because I have the little one. I've been through a couple of samples of this and I finally got around to buying it. I feel like people are quite divided on this fragrance. I really like it, and I have to say I'm not sure if I love the ginger in this as much as I love it in 5 o'clock Au Gingembre. To me, the ginger in this one, because it's primarily a white floral fragrance and it has a lot of floral notes, the ginger sort of, I don't know, it's going to sound weird, but it kind of smells like hair to me. Clean hair, but hair. But not shampoo. That makes no sense. But that only lasts a few minutes. And then, I don't know, I feel like the ginger then melds further into the rest of the fragrance. And you've got those beautiful citrusy notes as well, but then the jasmine sort of starts to round out a little bit more, and you've got sandalwood. It's just, I don't feel like it's an overly complicated fragrance, but I feel like it's just a really lovely one to wear in the summertime, in the warmer weather. And I just like it at Christmas time because, again, it's kind of got that zestiness about it, a bit spicy. So it kind of feels a bit Christmassy to me, and it looks Christmassy because it's so festive. Look at it, it's so cute. The next one is quite a departure from the other ones I've just spoken about. This does not have a ginger note in it, thank God. This one is, and it's going to be really hard to actually show it on camera, but it is 411 Intensivo by Giovanna Antonelli Perfumes. I will put a picture up on the screen as well, just because I know that it's really hard to actually get a decent view of this on the camera. This is another sort of white floral based fragrance, but this one's a bit soapy, and it's also kind of a little bit spicy. It's a little bit reminiscent to me of Aromatics Elixir, but this one is a bit lighter and cleaner, and it's not as cloying, I don't think, as the Aromatics Elixir. So I really, really love this fragrance. It was kind of my second favorite out of the trio. The 811 being my absolute favorite, but that is definitely more of a winter time fragrance. So anyway, that is 411 Intensivo by Giovanna Antonelli Parfums. The next one is, well, for a while it was a bit of a crowd favorite, but I think it's kind of lost its glimmer somehow. You know, people don't seem to be quite as enamored with it anymore. But this is Terracotta by Guerlain. Possibly it's lost its glimmer because I think it might have been discontinued. I'm not entirely sure. I feel like it's still readily available to us here in Australia. So maybe it's just becoming a little bit difficult to track down in other countries. So this is my go-to sort of summer tropical holiday kind of fragrance. It's very solar. It's got lots of florals in there. I think it's got ylang ylang. It's definitely got jasmine, maybe some tiare flower, and it's got coconut in there as well. And it's very creamy, so it does have that sort of creamy, coconutty, suntan lotion vibe going on. I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's an overly complicated fragrance. It doesn't develop that much. You know, the way it smells when you spray it on is pretty much how it smells the whole time. But I feel like this has really good longevity, and it's a great one to take on holiday. Anyway, this is the fragrance I like to wear on holidays, and so wearing it at Christmas time is usually, I've worn it a couple of years in a row over Christmas time, and now it's sort of become one of my Christmas fragrances. So that is Terracotta by Guerlain. And so the next one is Nawab Oud by Ormond Jane. I only have a travel decant of this one. Actually, there's probably no point showing it to you because it's actually not written on the bottle. It's just written on the little sticker on the base. This is a really gorgeous, spicy oud-based fragrance. Although the oud, again, is a very clean oud. It's very woody, and I really like it. I think it dries down really beautifully, and it sort of almost gets a soapy vibe to it. So it's really good for the hot weather because it's very clean and crisp and light and a little bit soapy. So it sort of seems clean as well. The interesting thing about this one for me though is that when I spray it on, and if I smell my skin up close, it's not my favorite. Like I don't really like it that much, but the sillage cloud that this thing creates is just absolutely stunning. It smells really expensive and really high class, but for some reason when I sniff it too closely on my skin, I don't really like it that much. Well, it's not that I don't like it, but I just don't love it. Whereas the cloud that this creates, when I just allow it to, you know, mingle into my senses without me being conscious of it, it is really, really good. So that is Nawab Oud by Ormond Jane. And the next one is the last one of the warm weather fragrances. And this is one that I only just discovered a couple of months ago actually. And it is called Blackwater Thistle by Criminal Elements. Again, I'll put the picture up on the screen for you because this is a little bit tiny for you to see. This is really interesting, this fragrance. Criminal Elements is an Australian brand, and they were a finalist this year in the artisan category for the Olfaction Awards, I think. And this is a really beautiful green floral scent, but it has a really interesting soil note in it in the top, and it really does smell like soil, but not in a bad way. Even though you can smell damp soil, it's still very light and it's still very clean and fresh smelling. I don't know how he did it, but it's really incredible. It's earthy but light and clean smelling. So I think he's done a fantastic job with this. So it has florals and stuff as well. It's sort of a green florally scent, but what really caught my attention was that earthy sort of soil, wet soil note, and it almost feels kind of avant-garde, but it's not. Well, I don't know, maybe it is. I'll have to ask Corey, the perfumer, about that. But I find it entirely wearable, and anyway, I just find it a fascinating fragrance. It's very fresh, easy to wear, I think, and I think I want to get a bottle of that. Anyway, that was probably one of my newer discoveries of the year that I can't wait to experiment more with over Christmas. Now we'll move into the cooler weather fragrances, and I just realized actually that I have about 12 fragrances, not 10, so I've miscounted, my apologies. So the next one I'll talk about very briefly is Lune Feline by Atelier des Ors. Again, I only have a little sample of this. This one was kind of interesting to me because I sampled this, I think early to mid last year, and it didn't really grab me. And I think that was because I was a bit maybe anti-vanilla fragrances at the time. And the reason I've revisited this is because a friend of mine sent me this sample, so I have a chance to revisit. And I'm really enjoying it. I don't know if I want to spend the money on a full bottle of this, but I really, really do love this fragrance. And it's just, again, it reminds me of Christmas because of that cardamom in the top. It's a very spicy vanilla, but I just don't know if I need another vanilla fragrance in my wardrobe. But until then, I'm just going to be happy with the sample, and I'll wear that probably on Christmas Day for our Christmas family lunch, and that'll probably be the end of that sample then, and who knows when I'll revisit it. So that is that one. The next one is another cold weather fragrance, and I would normally probably only reserve this for colder weather, but this summer I am going to try and wear this more in the evenings, when it sort of cools down in the evenings. And this is Rosé All Day by Gallagher Fragrances. I bought the Discovery set from this house last year, and I pretty much ignored Rosé All Day for a while because when I smelled it, it didn't smell how I was expecting it to smell, and I was a bit affronted by that. So I kind of then put it away and ignored it. And then earlier this year, I pulled that sample out again and I started wearing it, and I realized that actually I really do like it. And that stainless steel note in the top, whatever that is really interesting. And sometimes it grates on me and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes I really enjoy it. So I wonder if wearing this in the warmer weather, albeit in the evenings most likely, whether that will work better for me because, you know, stainless steel maybe has a bit of a cooling kind of effect. I don't know. I'm just, you know, it's amazing the thought processes and the justifications I can make in my mind. But in any case, I actually really do like this one. It's very gourmand. It does smell like apple pie to me. Lots of cinnamon, lots of apple, lots of pastry. But it's nice and it smells like Christmas. So, I mean, when would apple pie, not a spicy cinnamon pie, not smell like Christmas? The next one is definitely a favourite of mine. I've talked about it before. This is Vanille Tonka by Nikolai Parfums. I really like this all year round because it's not an overly sweet vanilla. Now, the interesting thing was when I first tried this, I was expecting it to be a lot sweeter than it is. And consequently, I thought that it wasn't sweet at all because there is a lot of spice in here. It's quite peppery. There's myrrh. So there's resins, but they're not sweet, cloying resins. They're kind of dry and spicy. And for the longest time, I thought this is a non-sweet vanilla. You still get the vanilla, but it's not a really super sweet vanilla. But now, after having had it for a while, I realized that actually it is quite sweet, but it's just because in my brain, I was expecting it to be a lot sweeter than it is, but it is in fact quite sweet. So if you were one of the people who jumped on the bandwagon with this one and were disappointed and still have your bottle sitting around, my advice to you is wear it more, because the more you wear it, the more you understand that there is quite a bit of sweetness in here, but it's not overtly in your face kind of sweetness, and it's very delicate and it's very well done. It's very sophisticated. I love this fragrance. So the next two I'll probably talk about at the same time because in a way they are quite similar. The first one is Ambre Tabac by Josier. And I do just love these bottles. I mean, they're a beautiful presentation. I still have not got around to buying any more fragrances from this house, but I have several samples, and I just can't decide which one I want to get next, really. But this is a beautiful, as you would suggest, ambery tobacco fragrance, and it's quite spicy. There is a bit of cinnamon in there, so to me it has that Christmassy vibe because of that cinnamon, I think, in the top. It is really, really beautiful. I think the tobacco in here is not dry. It's quite sweet, I think. It's really beautiful. It's so smooth. It's quite sweet. It's not overpowering, nor is it smoky at all. So I really, really love this fragrance. The amber is a really beautiful light amber accord. It's not super dense and it's not super heavy. So it's just a beautiful complement to the other ambery type of fragrances that I have in my wardrobe. I really, really love this fragrance a lot. The next one you can't really see, but the reason I wanted to talk about it at the similar time is because this is Ombre Narguile by Hermes. In fact, the label has worn off completely, so you can't even read it. I feel like there's quite a few similarities between this and this, but I'm not saying they're the same, and I'm not saying that this is a dupe for this, not at all. But they do have a lot of cinnamon in them, and I think a lot of people think that, that they're very similar to each other because of that. I think the opening is quite similar because of that, when you get that blast of cinnamon. But this one, to me, is more along the lines of cinnamony apple pie without the weird stainless steel note that this has, whereas this is more cinnamony, ambery tobacco. So quite different, but also some similarities. I feel like this one's sweeter, so I do like this a lot, but I think for me, I think I prefer the Ombre Tabac to the Hermes Ombre Narguile. Last but not least, I actually wore this quite a lot last year, and I think that was because I had recently got the bottle, so I went, stuff it, I'm wearing it, even if it's hot and arguably might be a little bit cloying, and that is Initio's Absolute Aphrodisiac. I really go back and forth with this fragrance a lot. Sometimes I just feel like I'm completely over it because it's so sweet, but there is something in here that's really addictive, and it is ambery and it is sweet, and it can be a little bit too much sweetness sometimes, but at the same time it isn't cloying. It is a vanilla fragrance, but it's not super cloying, but it can be a bit cloying if you apply it inappropriately, which I have done on occasion. So I will be light-handed with it this year, and I think because of the vanilla, there's slightly leathery. I wouldn't say it's super, super spicy or anything, but because I think I wore it Christmas time last year, I have it in my head that it's one of my Christmas fragrances. And it's not a bad Christmas fragrance to have. And if you are somebody who lives in a colder climate, this would be beautiful at Christmas time. So, because it would, it would go very well in the cold weather. But I'm going to do it anyway here in sunny Australia. Anyway, so that was my last of the cold weather fragrances. So curious to know what you will be wearing over the Christmas period this year, and or what you typically gravitate towards in the festive season. Let me know in the comments below, and I look forward to chatting with you there. Thanks guys, bye.